up here. All right, beautiful people. We live in both places. Okay. Happy Sunday, everybody. It is September the 12th, 2021, day 258 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 927. Today, we are reading, I forgot what come out the Nahum, y'all. I gotta check it. Hold on. Nahum. Oh, I gotta pull it up. I really forgot. Habakkuk. Okay, so today we're reading Habakkuk 1, 2, and 3. I think Habakkuk, please. Hold on, let me see. Habakkuk. Yep, we're going to read the whole book of Habakkuk because it's only 3 chapters. And then we're going to pick up where we left off at yesterday in chapter 5 on page 131 in Caesar's Messiah, y'all. C90. Yeah. All right, beautiful people. Y'all enjoy your day yesterday? Hope y'all did. Trina, hey girl, hey LaFon, shalom. Auntie, Linda Brown, shalom. All right, y'all. Let's get this party started. Put this back on 1. Yeah, let's put up the shimmer. All right, y'all remember the Shema found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting in verse 3. Remember, read the full chapter for the full gist of everything. I just got all the meat and potatoes in here. But y'all remember, hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Let's hop right to it. Habakkuk chapter 1. Habakkuk's complaint. This is the message that the prophet Habakkuk received in a vision. How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Violence is everywhere. I cry, but you do not come to save. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I am surrounded by people who love to argue and fight. The law has become paralyzed, and there is no justice in courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. Yahuwah replied, look around at the nations. Look and be amazed. For I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe even if someone told you about it. I am raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. They are notorious for their cruelty and do whatever they like. Their horses are swifter than cheetahs and fiercer than wolves at dusk. Their charioteers charge from far away. Like eagles, they swoop down to devour their prey. Oh, on. Hold on. On they come, all bent on violence. Their horde advances like a desert wind, sweeping captives ahead of them like sand. They scoff at kings and princes and scorn all their fortresses. They simply pile ramps of earth against their walls and capture them. They sweep past like the wind and are gone, but they are deeply guilty, for their own strength is their God. Rebecca's second complaint. O Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal, surely you do not plan to wipe us out. O Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins. But you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? Are we only fish to be caught and killed? Are we only sea creatures that have no leader? Must we be strung up on their hooks and caught in their nets while they rejoice and celebrate? Then they will worship their nets and burn incense in front of them. These nets are the gods who have made us rich, they will claim. Will you let them get away with this forever? Will they succeed forever in their heartless conquests? Second chapter, Habakkuk chapter 2. Dashida, hey girl, hey. All right, y'all. Shayla, that's Wabu. I will climb up to my watchtower and stand at my guard post. There I will wait to see what Yahuwah says and how he will answer my complaint. Yahuwah's second reply. Then the Lord said to me, write my answer plainly on tablets so that a runner can carry the correct message to others. The vision is for a future time. It describes the end and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. Look at the proud. They trust in themselves, and their lives are crooked. But the righteous will live by their faithfulness to Yahuwah. Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many people. But soon their captors will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, what sorrow awaits you, thieves? Now you will get what you deserve. You have become rich by extortion, but how much longer can this go on? Suddenly, your debtors will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have while you stand trembling and helpless. Because you have plundered many nations, now all the survivors will plunder you. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. What sorrow awaits you who build big houses with money gained dishonestly? You believe your wealth will buy security, putting your family's nest beyond the reach of danger. But by the murders you committed, you have shamed your name and forfeited your lives. The very stones in the walls cry out against you, and the beams in the ceiling echo the complaint. What sorrow awaits you who build cities with money gained through murder and corruption? Has not Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, promised that the wealth of the nations will turn to ashes? They work so hard, but all in vain. For as the waters fill the sea, and the earth be filled with an hold on. For as the waters fill the sea, the earth will be filled with an awareness of the glory of Yahuwah. What sorrow awaits you who makes your neighbors drunk? You force your cup on them so you can gloat over their shameful nakedness. But soon it will be your turn to be disgraced. Come, drink, and be exposed. Drink from the cup of Yahuwah's judgment, and all your glory will be turned to shame. You cut down the forest of Lebanon. Now you will be cut down. You destroyed the wild animals, so now their terror will be yours. You committed murder throughout the countryside and filled the towns with violence. What good is an idol carved by man or a cast image that deceives you? How foolish to trust in your own creation, a God that can't even talk. What sorrow awaits you who say to wooden idols, wake up and save us. To speechless stone images, you say, rise up and teach us. Can an idol tell you what to do? They may be overlaid with gold and silver, but they are lifeless inside. But Yahuwah is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Last chapter for the day, and last chapter of this book, Habakkuk chapter 3. Jerry, peace and blessings. Uncle Nathaniel, shalom. Habakkuk's prayer. This prayer was sung by the prophet Habakkuk. I have heard all about you, Yahuwah. I am filled with awe by your amazing works. In this time of our deep need, help us again as you did in years going by. And in your anger, remember your mercy. I see Yahuwah moving across the deserts from Edom, the Holy One coming from Mount Paran. His brilliant splendor fills the heavens, and the earth is filled with his praise. His coming is as brilliant as the sunrise. Rays of light flash from his hand, where his awesome power is hidden. Pestilence marches before him. Plague follows close behind. When he stops, the earth shakes. When he looks, the nations tremble. He shatters the everlasting mountains and levels the eternal hills. He is the eternal one. I see people of Cushan in distress and the nations of Midian trembling in terror. Was it in anger, Yahuwah, that you struck the rivers and parted the sea? Were you displeased with them? No. You were sending your chariots of salvation. You brandish your bow and your quiver of arrows. You split open the earth with flowing rivers. The mountains watched and trembled. Onward swept the raging waters. The mighty deep cried out, lifting its hands in submission. The sun and moon stood still in the sky as your brilliant arrows flew and your glittering spear flashed. You marched across the land in anger and trampled the nations in your fury. You went out to rescue your chosen people, to save your anointed ones. You crushed the heads of the wicked and stripped their bones from head to toe. With his weapons, with his own weapons, you destroyed the chief of those who rushed out like a whirlwind, thinking Israel would be easy prey. You trampled the sea with your horses, and the mighty waters piled high. I trembled inside when I heard this. My lips quivered with fear. My legs gave way beneath me, and I shook in terror. I will wait. I will wait quietly for the coming day when disaster will strike the people who invade us. Even though the fig trees have no blossoms and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails and the field lies empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in Yahuwah. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. The salvation of Yahuwah is my strength. He makes me as sure footed as a deer, able to tread upon the heights. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. Tomorrow we start the book of Zephaniah. All right, y'all. So we're going to pick up where we left off at yesterday in Caesar's Messiah. Chapter 5, page 22. We're still going through this list, y'all, of comparisons between Titus's campaign and Jesus's ministry and how they follow exactly to the T in the exact order. Remember, Titus' campaign happened first. Then later on, they wrote this spoof about Titus's campaign, which everybody during that time knew, right? If you lived during Titus's reign, you knew that this was a spoof of every single thing that had happened, right? So something doesn't seem quite right. Everything the same exact order, right? In every single event. That don't seem a little suspect. Okay, we're on 22. We got 34, y'all. So let me go ahead and get the reading so we can at least finish up these. Okay, number 22. The innocent beaten worse than the guilty. And the parallel storylines then go on to a description of the innocent beaten worse than the guilty. Quote, And the servant who knew his master's will and did not prepare himself or do according to his will shall be beaten with many stripes. But he who did not know, yet committed things deserving of stripes, shall be beaten with a few. For everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required. And to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask the more. End quote. Luke chapter 12, 47 through 48. Quote, upon which there was a very great disorder and disturbance about the holy house, while the people who had no concern in the sedition supposed that this assault was made against all without distinction, as the zealots thought it was made against themselves only. So these left off guarding the gates any longer and leaped down from their battlements before they came to an engagement and fled away into the subterranean caverns of the temple, while the people that stood trembling at the altar and about the holy house were rolled on heaps together and trampled upon, and were beaten both with wooden and with iron weapons without mercy. Such also as had differences with others slew many persons that were quiet, out of their own private enmity and hatred, as if they were opposite the seditious, and all those that had formerly offended any of these plotters were now known, and were now led away to the slaughter. And when they had done abundance of horrid mischief to the guiltless, they granted a truce to the guilty. End quote. And that's found in Wars of the Jews 5, 3, and 101 through 104. Number 23. Divide the group 3 for 2. The next parallel is so transparent as to not require an explanation. Notice that Luke underscores the linked concept, the division, by reducing from 3 to 2 by repeating it. Quote, these followers of John also did now seize upon this inner temple and upon all the warlike engines therein, and then ventured to oppose Simon. And now, thus, that sedition, which had been divided into 3 factions, was now reduced to 2. End quote. Wars of the Jews 5, 3, 104 through 105. Quote, do you suppose that I came to give peace on earth? I tell you, not at all, but rather division. For from now on, 5 in one house will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. End quote. And that's found in Luke chapter 12, verse 51 through 53. Dream Sky Lover Shalom. To digress, though it is not a part of the typological sequence, the linked events do not occur at the same point within a sequence Luke describes as a tower of Siloam that had previously fallen on top of 18 Galilean sinners. Quote, or those 18 on whom the tower in Siloam fell and killed them, do you think that they were worse sinners than all the other men who dwelt in Jerusalem? I tell you, no, but unless you repent, you will all likewise perish. End quote. Luke 13, 4 through 5. Luke's description of a tower that fell and killed 18 has puzzled scholars, and there is no historical record of such an event. In fact, the passage is merely witty wordplay glorifying Titus. In his description of the battle in the valley next to the pool of Siloam, Josephus recorded that Titus fell on great numbers. Quote, oppose those that ran upon him and smote them on the face. And when they had forced them to go back, he slew them. He also fell upon great numbers as they marched down the hill and thrust them forward. End quote. And that's Wars of the Jews 5, 2, and 89. Logically, Jesus referred to the event not as a prophecy, but as occurring in the past, because the Tower of Siloam episode had already occurred when he discussed it. Number 24, cut down the fruit tree. Again, the next parallel is so obvious. I need to slow down while I'm reading. I won't make so many mistakes. Again, the next parallel is also obvious. Jesus envisions a fruit tree outside of Jerusalem that would be cut down, which it was. Quote, he also spoke this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. Then he said to the keeper of his vineyard, look, for 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why does it use up the ground? But he answered and said to him, Sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and fertilize it. And if it bears fruit, well, but if not, after that, you can cut it down. End quote. And that's Luke chapter 13, verses 6 through 9. But Titus, intending to pitch, well, quote, Titus, intending to pitch his camp nearer to the city than Scopus, placed as many of his choice horsemen and footmen as he thought sufficient opposite to the Jews to prevent their sallying out upon them, while he gave orders for the whole army to level the distance as far as the wall of the city. So they threw down all the hedges and walls which the inhabitants had made about their gardens. This scroll really loves my window ledge every morning. So they threw down all the hedges and walls which the inhabitants had made about their gardens and groves of trees, and cut down all the fruit trees that lay between them and the wall of the city. End quote. And that's Wars of the Jews 5:3, 106 through 107. Number 25, the narrow gate and the shut door. Luke then describes a narrow gate and the shutting of the door by the master, followed by the points of the compass. Quote, and he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem. Then one said to him, Lord, are there few who are saved? And he said to them, strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter and will not be able. When once the master of the house has risen up and shut the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open for us, and he will answer and say to you, I do not know you. Where are you from? Then you will begin to say, we ate and drank in your presence, and you taught us in our streets. But he will say, I tell you, I do not know you. Where are you from? Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God and yourselves thrust out. They will come from the east and the west, from the north and the south, and sit down in the kingdom of God. And indeed, there are last there and indeed there are last who will be first, and there are first who will be last. End quote. And that's Luke 13, 22 through 30. Josephus also describes the narrow gate that has been shut by the master of the house and the points of the compass. Nikki Shalom. Quote, so Caesar considered with himself how he might be even with the Jews for their stratagem. And now, when the space between the Romans and the wall had been leveled, which was done in 4 days, and as he was desirous to bring the baggage of the army with the rest of the multitude that followed him safely to the camp, he set the strongest part of his army over against that wall which lay on the north quarter, on the north quarter of the city, and over against the western part of it, and made his army 7 deep, with the footmen placed before them and the horsemen behind them, each of the last in 3 ranks, whilst the archers stood in the midst in 7 ranks. And now, as the Jews were prohibited by so great a body of men from making sallies upon the Romans, both the beasts that bear the burdens and belong to the 3 legions, and the rest of the multitude marched on without any fear. But as for Titus himself, he was but about 2 furlongs distant from the wall, at that part of it where was the corner, and over against that tower which was called Ficinius, at which tower the compass of the wall belonging to the north bended and extended itself over against the west. But the other part of the army fortified itself at the tower called Hippicus, and was distant in like manner by 2 furlongs from the city. However, the 10th legion continued in its own place upon the Mount of Olives. End quote. And that's Wars of the Jews 5:3 and 128 through 135. Luke and Josephus follow the obvious typological linkages above with one that is more conceptual. They each give a description of Jerusalem just before the triumphal entrance of the Son of Man. Number 26, how to build a tower. Quote, for which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. End quote. Luke 14:28 through 30. Quote, Titus went around the wall looking for the best place to build a tower. End quote. That's Wars of the Jews 5:6 and 258. Number 27, send a delegation. Or what king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000, or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. End quote. That's Luke 14:31 through 32. Quote, Josephus attempted to discourse to those that were upon the wall about terms of peace. End quote. Wars of the Jews 5:6 and 261. Okay, these are the things that happen inside the city. Number 28, the triumphal entrance and the stones that cry out. Luke then describes Jesus' beginning, his triumphant entrance into Jerusalem. In the passage, Luke describes stones that cry out, and then that which was hidden from the eyes. Quote, and they threw their own clothes on the colt, and they set Jesus on him. And as he went, many spread their clothes on the road. Then, as he was now drawing near the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works they had seen, saying, blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees called to him from the crowd, teacher, rebuke your disciples. But he answered and said to them, I tell you that if these should keep blah, tongue tied, I tell you that if these should keep silent, the stones would immediately cry out. Now, as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it, saying, if you had known, even you, especially in this your day, the things that make for your peace. Read that again. I read that too fast that it didn't make sense. Now, as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it, saying, if you had known, even you, especially in this your day, the things that make for your peace. That still don't make sense. Hold on. I know what this is. It just don't make sense for some reason. I think it's the exclamation point that's throwing me off. It really should be a comma. That's what throwing me off because the sentence doesn't end there, but it has a exclamation point. Okay, whatever. Now, as he drew near, he saw the city and wept over it, saying, if you had known, even you, especially in this your day, the things that make for your peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes. Luke, the end quote, Luke 19:35 through 42. Okay. It's improper. Exclamation point. Josephus then describes Titus's triumphant entrance into Jerusalem. In other words, Josephus describes Titus's entrance into the city, which were the stones hurled by catapults. In the passage, Josephus made an apparent mistake writing, "The son cometh," rather than "the stone cometh." Uh-oh, better watch out. Stone cometh. Y'all about to get hit in your head. Let me read that again. Josephus then describes Titus's triumphant entrance into Jerusalem. In other words, Josephus describes Titus's entrance into the city, which were the stones hurled by catapults. In the passage, Josephus made an apparent mistake writing, "The son cometh," rather than "the stone cometh." Though the apparent error has puzzled scholars, this analysis makes the satirical and typological meaning of Josephus's error clear. Notice that Josephus first describes the coming of the stone, then a stone cries out, and finally he recorded that the son / stone was hidden from your eyes, or hidden from the Jews' eyes. It is amusing that in Winston's translation below, he inadvertently but correctly captures the real meaning of Josephus's wordplay concerning stones crying out with his phrase, "and the stone came from it and cried out aloud." In other words, the Greek statement can be logically read in two ways. One, just as Jesus predicted, the stones cried out. Notice also that what the stones would cry out in the Gospels was the true identity of the Son of God. This is exactly what Josephus recorded the stone did in the passage below. The sequence of concepts in this passage creates a clearly obvious typological connection to the stones that cried out in passage in Luke 19 when viewed from this new perspective. Quote, "The engines that all the legions had ready prepared for them were admirably contrived, but still more extraordinary ones belongeth to the 10th legion. Those that threw darts and those that threw stones were more forcible and larger than the rest, by which they not only repelled the excursions of the Jews, but drove those away that were upon the walls also. Now the stones that were cast were of the weight of a talent, and were carried 2 furlongs and further. The blow they gave was no way to be sustained, not only by those that stood first in the way, but those that were beyond them for a great space. As for the Jews, they at first watched the coming of the stone, for it was of a white color, and could therefore not only be perceived by the great noise it made, but could be seen also before it came by its brightness. Accordingly, the watchman that sat upon the tower gave them notice when the engine was let go, and the stone came from it, and cried out aloud in their own country language, "The son cometh," so that those that were in its way stood off and threw themselves down upon the ground, by which means, and by their thus guarding themselves, the stone fell down and did them no harm. But the Romans contrived how to prevent that by blackening the stone. But the Romans contrived how to prevent that by blackening the stone. Who then could aim at them with success when the stone was not discerned beforehand, as it had been till then? So they destroyed many of them at one blow. End quote. Wars of the Jews 5:6 and 2:69 through 2:73. Note that in Hebrew the son is Ben, Ben, and stone is Eben, Eben. The pun on these words used in the passage above was established earlier in the Gospels. Quote, "And do not think to say to yourselves, we have Abraham as our father. For I say to you that God is able to raise up sons to Abraham from these stones. End quote. Matthew 3 and 9. Number 29. Jerusalem is encircled with a wall. Luke then describes Jesus envisioning the encircling of Jerusalem with a wall. Note that the overall pattern connects to a parallel that cannot be disputed. Scholars have always recognized that Luke chapter 19:43 was dependent upon Josephus's description of Jerusalem encircled with a wall, but heretofore have not seen the parallel in the overall pattern. The fact that the overall pattern directly connects to an incontrovertible parallel supports the premise that the pattern is deliberate. Quote, for the days will come for the days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment around you, surround you, and close you in on every side, and level you and your children within you to the ground, and they will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation. End quote. And that's found in Luke chapter 19, verses 43 through 44. The more I go through this, y'all, and read this, I don't know about y'all, but I've been in the process of doing this for a while. This just makes it really, really unmistakably really clear how we have been toyed with, emotions played upon, looking crazy out here in these streets, right? And at first it kind of pisses you off. And then it just becomes a laughable matter. And you think to yourself, how could I have been deceived for so long? And then you look back and think over the course of your life and all the time you have been wasted being immobilized with this lie that has fooled the entire world, while those who created this lie have been swiping up lands and things all around you. They gave us religion to keep us busy doing other things and those things that really matter, right? And by forcing or indirectly forcing through peace and deceit, forcing people into different religions, it causes us to choose to be immobile, while those who are ruling everything continue to rule everything, while they take everything from the masses of us because we willingly give it up to their fairy tale and this God that they have given us, right? When the God who has created us all, he has given us all a portion. And while we're here in this life, not only are we to learn about this habitat in which we live, but we are to build it up and we are to teach one another, right? This is just one level in our phase of life, right? It's almost like the earth is a womb, and when we leave this realm, we're actually being born. Just like a child is in darkness for 9 months in its mother's womb, it does all this growing and everything. The earth is like another womb. It's like we come out of our mother's womb into the womb of the earth, right? And then once we learn and grow and do all the things that we need to learn here, when we transition into the next phase of life, all the things that we have learned here will determine, how we're born into that realm, right? And then if you don't do anything, it's almost like if you're taken by all these things, like all religion, all the rigmarole that goes on is like the bad bacteria in your body, right? You need bad bacteria to flourish and to bring the even balance, right? You will say, I create good and I create evil, right? There needs to be an even balance of both to cause proper growth, right? You need rain as well as you need sunshine, right? Some things need to be planted in dirt. Some things can survive in water. Like you need all of this stuff for proper growth and for proper balance, right? But a lot of times we find ourselves on the earth realm improperly balanced, right? And we end up, when we leave this earth realm, we end up being stillborn, right? Because we didn't accomplish anything, right? We ain't learned nothing. Because religion and different types of religion and other things have caused us really to turn in on ourselves and not really to operate in the known world at doing things that other people are doing building up cities and things like that, and ruling government righteously, making sure that everybody that enters into this womb is growing appropriately, right? They get us, they bog us down and cover our eyes with religion, and then we turn into bad bacteria, right? And they just kind of isolate us all, put us in buildings, and y'all gonna do that over there. Get as many to come with y'all as y'all can. Not that y'all doesn't answer us while we there. He does, right? But you really don't accomplish much. You really don't. You really don't if you sit and look at it, right? I mean, you can make your own life nice and comfortable. Some people kind of get out, they do things for the community and everything, and those things are good, right? But you still find yourself being entrapped by the government who still wants to take everything from you, right? Even with the churches and stuff, um when you take their 501c3 status. Let's say 501c3. I think that's right. 501c3 status. You further entrap yourself into what you can teach your people. Even if you can build a church or whatever, but as long as you're teaching them the truth and you're actually going out and you're acquiring lands and building things, right? Some people are doing it. They have cities that they're building up in the name of Jesus. Some are transitioning. There is only one God, right? And they stop with all the different names and stuff. But for the most part, when you sit back and look at it, it's really a sad sight. It really is. Now, people have to grow, right? Some people need that. Okay, now you're strong enough. All right, boom. Okay, we don't really need that no more because we just kind of alter ourselves over there, and we can't really do anything. We always got to check in with the past on what we can do and what we can't do. Like you're running our marriages. Yahuwah does not want that, right? He does not want other people ruling over your lives. Just like when you have children, you have parents, or you have parents all your life, right? You'll forever have parents. But there comes a time where you break off from them and you become independent, and all that you have learned, you begin to put into practice independently. Then you find a mate and you begin the cycle over again. Some people never break off from their parents, right? They sit in the same church from the time they got there to the time they they go to the grave, and then they bury them at the church, in the church's graveyard. Like, what did you ever do while you were here? Like, what did you ever do? I'm just saying, this makes, once you begin to uncover all these things, it just wakes you up another level. And you really begin to sit and think about it, right? Because a lot of people, when they're still trapped inside of the church, they live in this form of fear where they can't really get too involved with doing anything because Jesus could come at any moment. And they just don't do anything. They do little small things, but they don't venture out where their gifts can really flourish. Some do, a lot of people don't, because they're scared and they're constantly watching the news and not realizing that the government that created the religion, of course, has been passed down through generations, but the government, the people and families that created all this, they control the news media. They keep up the fear mongering and stuff that causes people, we can't go out, we can't do this, or this and this and that. Yet, if you go and you look into other places where the media is not controlling, if you look at some not Facebook, well, Facebook too, or YouTube videos of people in different places, like over in like whatever places all over the world, you know, they don't have, although they're still wearing masks, but a lot of people not, right? They're like living life freely. They're not in this what you want to call it. It's like they're disconnected from all of this crap that they got the majority of us believing. It's like, don't you know it's a, a pandemic going on out here? People just freely walking and being on beaches and snapping pictures and traveling and doing all. Don't y'all know? No, I mean, it's really not. This is how they immobilize people not to do anything. And I'm not saying that there is not the vid really going on, because people are really getting sick, but you just need to do some basic maintenance with your own body to ensure that you don't get sick and things aren't passed along, right? Okay. Mom, shalom. But I'm just saying, going through here, deconstructing the New Testament and the lies, it really makes you sit back and think, man, what have we been doing with our life? What have we acquired? Like, do we own anything? Do we own anything? Like, our people own houses, land, all kinds of stuff. What do we own? Really, the majority of us, the descendants of Jacob, the majority of us, you know, we can't really say that, you know? And if you can, maybe you got one thing, maybe your own personal, but what about businesses and real estate? Like all of those things. Don't that seem kind of suspect and fishy that those who controlling the masses pretty much own and they're steady buying up stuff, where they're getting us to stay in places, every place you're losing, they're buying it up, buying places out. Like all of these things, y'all. I'm like, something ain't right. Okay, let's finish this. Number 29. Okay, we read the part in Luke, right? We're talking about Jerusalem encircled with the wall, number 29. So we read the part in Luke. So we'll read the part in Wars of the Jews where it connects. Josephus then describes Titus' encircling of Jerusalem with a wall. This event has always been understood by scholars as the basis for Jesus' prophecy above. They must build a wall round about the whole city, which was, he thought, the only way to prevent the Jews from coming out anyway, and then they would either entirely despair of saving the city and so would surrender it up to him, or be still the more easily conquered when the famine had further weakened them. For that, besides this wall, he would not lie entirely at rest afterward, but would take care then to have banks raised again when those that would oppose them were become weaker. But that if anyone should think that such a work be too great and not be finished without much difficulty, he ought to consider that it is not fit for Romans to undertake any small work, and that none but God himself could with ease accomplish any great thing whatsoever. End quote. Wars of the Jews 512 and 499 through 501. Number 30, drive out the thieves from the temple. The final passage I shall present from the Luke Josephus typological mapping requires a little comment, as, with the context established by this analysis, its symbolism is transparent. Following the triumphal entrance and the encircling of the city with a wall, Titus stormed the temple. In other words, the robbers were driven out by the Son of Man. Josephus and the Gospels each use the words lestes or lestes to describe the robbers. Quote, then the Romans mounted the breach, and all the Jews left the guarding wall and retreated to the second wall. So those that had gotten over that wall opened the gates and received all the army within it. And thus did the Romans get possession of this first wall on the 15th day of the siege. End quote. Wars of the Jews 5:7 and 301 through 302. Keeping in sequence, Luke recorded that Jesus had an event foreseeing Titus's victory over the robbers in the area of the front of the temple. Notice the typological concept of the Jews seeking to destroy Jesus. Quote, then he went into the temple and began to drive out those that bought and sold in it, saying to them, it is written, my house is a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. And he was teaching daily in the temple, but the chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people sought to destroy him. End quote. And that's Luke 19:45 through 47. Number 31, the abomination of desolation. The abomination of desolation that Josephus records was predicted by Jesus, and though Daniel's prophecy is described, it is not technically referred to as such in Luke. This parallel sheds light on why different gospels were written, as it enables the authors to make the relationship between Jesus and Titus more difficult to see. The reference to the abomination of desolation was placed into Matthew, and the authors required that a reader remember the fact to understand that the passage in Luke is placed in the correct spot, not in the sequence. Notice the witticism whereby the author of Matthew notes that the reader needs to understand something about the abomination of desolation. Remember, when you read that, it says, reader, pay attention, or reader, be aware. What he needs to understand is that if it had been included in the same passage in Luke, with its numerous typological parallels occurring in the same sequence, the Jesus Titus typology would be too obvious. Quote, then he said to them, nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes in various places. Guys, it's really, y'all seen The Wizard of Oz? The more I read this, I'm like, you know what? All it's going to take is for enough people to stand up and say, enough is enough. Y'all ever watch The Wizard of Oz? And how when Dorothy is going to see the wizard, right? Not the Wiz, but the original one, right? The little white girl. I forget her name. But that's one of my favorite movies, right? The original one that I'm talking about. But you know how you get there and they get there to see the wizard and he's behind this curtain and he's the one, like all these things he had been controlling, making them scared and they shaking in their boots. And it's really been an illusion the entire time. They were afraid for nothing. And here's this little man. They go to the adult, I think it was Toto, mind you. He goes and pulls the curtain back. And Judy Garland, thank you. Thank you, Auntie. He goes and pull the curtain back and the wizard is exposed, right? He's been the one behind the curtain all this time using this big bullhorn to make his voice sound extremely loud and fearful and making thunder sounds and all this. He got this whole production going, right? This is what all of this seems like, right? And if enough people will say enough is enough, we literally could turn things around overnight, right? But too many people scared. Too many people is scared and thinking that this is real thunder and lightning that we're hearing. It's all a big illusion, people. And if people would wake up, they would lose their control over everything that they have taken from us. People would wake up and begin to take their stuff back. A lot of people that you have in government, they only stay in a position because they think the government has got their back. But let there be a true uprising of the people. Most of those people in position will abandon their posts. I'm telling you, I just patiently await the day and I dropping little stuff on people. Come on, y'all. Wake up. Wake up. This world is not what it seems, you know? Okay. You gotta be careful though. Gotta be careful. Listen, let me start this over again. Quote, then he said to them, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons. You will be brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake, but it will turn out for you as an occasion for testimony. Therefore, settle it within your hearts, not to meditate beforehand on what you will answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But not a hair on your head shall be lost. By your patience, possess your souls. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. End quote. And that's Luke 21:10-20. Quote, for nation, it's doing, okay, it's giving it to you from Luke, Matthew, and then Wars of the Jews, and then a portion from Daniel. Okay. Quote, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. That's the wizard behind the curtain. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. End quote. That's Matthew 24, 7 through 15. And now Titus gave orders to, what is that?
My tablet.
Oh, girl, go plug it in.
Not there.
I just heard the dinging after all that. Your charger, I think you put your charger on your desk. Go check your desk. If it's not on the desk, check that crate over there. And now Titus gave orders. Okay, cool. And now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the tower of Antonia and make him a ready passage for his army to come up, while he himself had Josephus brought to him, for he had been informed that on that very day, which was the 17th day of Pentemus or Tammuz, the sacrifice, be careful.
In here?
Yeah, you can play it right here. Be careful, don't knock that out because it's gonna kill YouTube. I'm gonna upgrade it soon, sis.
Huh?
Okay, here. Plug it in right there. Okay. While he himself had Josephus brought in, for he had been informed that on that very day, which was the 17th day of Pentemus or Tammuz, the sacrifice called the daily sacrifice had failed and had not been offered to God for want of men to offer it, and that the people were grievously troubled at it. And who is there that does not know what the writings of the ancient prophets contain in them, and particularly that oracle which is just now going to be fulfilled upon this miserable city? For they foretold that this city should be then taken. Hold on. For they foretold that this city should be then taken when somebody shall begin the slaughter of his own countrymen. Let me see it. Let me see it. All right. There you go. And are not both the city and the entire people now full of the dead bodies of your countrymen? It is God, therefore, it is God himself who is bringing on this fire to purge that city and temple by means of the Romans, and is going to pluck up this city, which is full of your pollutions. And that end quote, and that's Wars of the Jews, 6:93 through 94, and 109 through 110. Winston recorded the miraculous day of the abomination of desolation in a footnote. This was a remarkable day indeed, the 17th of Pentemus or Tammuz, AD 70, when, according to Daniel's prediction, 606 years before, the Romans in half a week caused the sacrifice and oblation to cease. Daniel 9:27. Let me just say something else. Mariah, shalom.
Mom, this is Josh's.
Yes.
Where's Mom?
Okay, listen. Y'all got to really think about this, right? You have to understand how powerful our minds are. Whatever you perceive to be the truth will become true to you, even though it's a lie, even though it might be a lie. Whatever you perceive to be true, You begin to internalize it as the truth, and you literally begin to build your entire life on it, even though it is a lie, or it could be a lie, right? Think about it simply. I'll use something humorous. Think about black people. If you hear what sounds like a gunshot close to you, a lot of times, what people do, what black people do, I ain't gonna say just black people, a lot of people will, right? They either gonna duck, or if you live in a bad enough neighborhood, you're gonna run and duck for cover, or you're gonna take off running, right? Or this could happen. Say somebody's arguing outside. You don't necessarily see them, but you can hear an argument happening. And then next to this argument is a group of kids with a bunch of firecrackers. Not them cheap firecrackers, but firecrackers that when you light and they fire off in rapid succession, they sound like Uzis, right? Now, you're hearing two different things, right? You don't see it, but you're hearing two different things. You're hearing somebody argue, a bunch of dudes or whatever, and they may not necessarily be arguing about the fight, right? But they could be out there, I don't know, shooting dice or something, arguing over who do you, whatever. Although that could end in a fight, but just go with my story. You could have two different things going on, and you could perceive that this is something other than what it is. You don't know that there's two different scenarios going on. And it just so happened, one of the guys get a little too excited and somebody say, I'll kill you, something like that, right? And then the kids decide to light the firecrackers. Oh man, go ahead, light it. We gotta set up, light it. And it just happened that those things happen simultaneously. You hear somebody say, dude, I'll kill you. And then the kids light the firecrackers, and it sounds like rapid succession gunfire Uzi. You think, oh snap, you think these people who's arguing, they got guns, and now they wetting up the whole place. You gonna either duck, you'll start screaming, everybody get down, not realizing these are firecrackers. But you have internally perceived this entire thing because of what you heard, but you're not quite clear on the details of what's really going on beyond your sight. You just internalize something as being a truth. Adrenaline gets the pumping in your body, like physical things literally begin to happen in your body. Baby, turn it down a little bit, right? And your life begins to take on this whole different scenario type thing. Now you go to fight or flight mode, and you taking off running, and now you're in life preserving measures type mentality. But in all actuality, your life was never in danger, right? These are a group of guys. None of them got weapons, right? They over here, they just loud mouths, and they get to playing a dice game or whatever. But we know sometimes dice games can end in somebody being shot, right? But this is not the case. This is my example. Just listen to it. And you got these set of kids over here playing with firecrackers. But you have internally perceived it to be true, right? Now, I gave that little example, although the example might be a little ghetto, whatever. But think about the same thing with religion, right? We don't really know the details of how it was created and how you have been taken, right? They've given you this whole story. They've made up a lot of it, but you've taken that personally and you've internalized it and you've built your entire life on a lie. And your life begins to take on a whole new life of itself with this lie that you believe. And it becomes powerful. Excuse me. It literally begins to take on a life of itself as if it were true, but you're living in a lie. That's how powerful the mind is, right? And what happens is you can see that this lie that people have built or have chosen to build based on the faulty information that they have, it's really hard for them to break away from the lies of religion, especially when you remember the pairing something good with something that's not true. Like with the holidays, we talked about it when we were reading Fossilized Customs. It's hard for people to break away from pagan customs because you've got a lie and you paired it with something good family time, right? So now when somebody tell you, hey, you really shouldn't be celebrating Christmas, it's a pagan holiday. Let me tell you how this really came about. A lot of people don't want to hear you. They cut you off because what you're saying to them it sounds like you're telling them you can no longer spend time with your family, right? Spending time with your family is wrong because they've internalized it different based on how it was presented to them and how they internalize it. Christmas now, you think of all family coming into town, good dinners, we're sitting around playing games, joking, talking about stories when we were growing up. That's what people think about when they think about holidays. Yes, baby. Yes. And that's why it's so hard to wake people up from delusion. Or when you wake them up, they choose to stay in a delusion because they don't know how to separate the truth from the error, right? Or separate the wheat from the tares, right? And it's like, and then they become angry with you when you're trying to tell them, but they're still not quite understanding, right? Well, they just need a little bit more time. It's this same exact thing, y'all. When we're going through this and people begin to call you antichrist or whatever, or think you've gone off the deep end, is because they're internalizing this lie and it literally has become alive. And so, excuse me, when they're relating to Yah and they're calling him by the name of Jesus or what other name, depending on whatever religion they're in, they still haven't made the connection that, wait a minute, these are two separate entities. One is the creator of heaven and earth, but you're addressing him. Somehow, religion has taught you to merge these two like they're one, right? And through the shenanigans and stuff, this is the process where they became one. And now, when you say Jesus, you automatically think of God. Well, Jesus is God. Well, how can he be God and be the son of God, right? Because that goes against what he says. Like, all of these things began to happen. And that's why it's so hard for people to not necessarily wake up from the truth, but choose to put away the things that put them asleep, right? Because they can't quite understand it. So that's why I want to take so much time we go through and we add these extra readings to it where it has all the resources where you can personally go look at these things like, wait a minute, pull up historical documents, things that are there and things that they said that were there that you would never find anywhere. No proof of anything anywhere, right? And then look at life as it is. You have to put all these things together, right? So I said all that to say that these bodies that Yahuwah have given us, these minds that we have, they are very, very, very powerful machines. Even though the point was saying that even though you believe something, it doesn't necessarily make it the truth, because you can personally internalize something that's a lie and make it seem like the truth in your life, and it will literally take on a whole nother life itself, and you will begin to see different type of results from that type of truth or lie that you have chosen to take and internalize and apply to your life. So we have to be really careful. So when we're going through these things and kind of deconstructing this lie, just be patient with yourself, right? You ain't tripping. Don't get mad. I mean, you're gonna get mad because once you realize you've been, excuse me, been made a fool of, you have to go through and really look at your life and begin to separate the truth from the error. Keep what's good, get rid of the bad, right? And build your life on a solid foundation of truth. And a lot of us have to completely demolish the building all the way down to its foundation. Yep. You can keep the good memories and stuff, but you have to look at some things. Some things have been illusions. Some things have been blatant lies, but we still experience good from Yah, right? Yahuwah talks about it a lot through the book of Hosea, how his people were calling him and attributing the good things that he gave them to their lovers whom they prostituted themselves to, right? Think about Hosea's wife, right? And the story going through there. Everything he said, it was in, he was using an example of Hosea and his wife, who was a prostitute. He was using that story to help us understand what we have done, Israel, his people have done. He said, all the good things that Israel have come from me. He said, but they think their lovers, like their gifts came from them. He said, when everything that they have came from me, right? He may use their resources to get those things to us, but it wasn't them that gave those things to us. It was Yahuwah alone. And a lot of times that's what we see happening with Christians because of the strong delusion that we have been put under, right? Because I noticed some people, I don't mean to drive people where I really don't, but some people, they're not ready to handle the truth. And I'm not saying that your entire life has been a lie, right? But you need to put your life in its proper perspective. Kimberly, Shallow, wow. You need to put your life and all those things that have happened, all the good things in its proper perspective. Yes, there is a God. There is one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the creator of heaven and earth, and all good things, the blessings, the healings, the showing up right on time. It wasn't Jesus. It was Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone. That's what I want people to try and understand, right? That's get into the habit of rightly understanding what's been happening all your life, right? But you've just been taught to take your adoration and put it in another place. And we're just trying to help you redirect it back to where it should be, to Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone, not middlemen, right? Yahuwah never told us that, right? Okay. I'm done on my soapbox. I just want to make sure that was really clear, because I think some people misunderstand. It's like, okay, well, everything happened in Jesus' name, and no, you're wrong, I'm right, because I got proof. Yes, you have proof, but it wasn't the power in the name of Jesus or Yeshua, guys. It was Yahuwah. You've just been ignorant of who it is that you really serve, right? I just really want to make that clear, because that really, it really does hurt my heart to see people really take that the wrong way. I was like, well, maybe I'm really not explaining it the right way. Maybe I am really pushing people away, right? So I want to make sure I'm really clear about that, right? Yes, Chrissy, hallelujah. It was Yahuwah and always Yahuwah. Yahuwah alone, right? Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure it was clear. Okay, let me finish this. Okay. Winston recorded the miraculous day of the abomination of desolation in a footnote. This was a remarkable day indeed, the 17th of Panamas or Tammuz, AD 70, when, according to Daniel's prediction, 606 years before, the Romans in half a week caused the sacrifice and oblation to cease. Daniel 9:27. Bella, turn it down a little bit. For from the month of February AD 66, about which time Vespasian entered on this war, to this very time was just 3 years and a half. Daniel, it must be remembered, predicted that the abomination of desolation would occur in the middle of a week, 7 years, right? Oh, that's how I got started getting on my soapbox, because people teaching in the church that are still teaching this, they're teaching these things like these things are really to come, and people looking for the abomination of desolation and the 7 year tribulation period, and the Antichrist, he's going to disrupt in 3.5 years and all hell going to break out. And I'm like, all right, be patient with them, just like you had to be patient with me while I began to understand the truth, right? Okay. Quote, from the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. End quote. That's Daniel 12 and 11. The dual storylines now describe parallels covered elsewhere. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Whew. Oh, wait. Oh, we're right here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're right at 34. Okay. The dual storylines now describe parallels covered elsewhere. Number 32, the son of Mary, who was a human Passover lamb. Then outside of Jerusalem, you got the last two that happened. Number 33, the crucified one and one survives. I'm sorry. 3 crucified and 1 survives. And then number 34, Simon condemned and John spared. Okay, and that's the end of that section with the 34 that he listed. Then he went and explained all 34. So the next section, which I think we'll pause right here, it goes into the entrance to the typological system. So it's going to give more details on how they put all these things together. So we'll pause right here, because this starts over with 1, and it's just gonna go through, but it's different subtitles, but you'll see as we go through. So we'll pause right here because we're at 1 hour and 14 minutes today. All right, so Mariah said, are there any books in the New Testament that can be trusted as scripture. Whew. Here's what I say. Here's what I say now. You, there is some good wisdom, right? There's some good wisdom that can be applied, like daily, like I would have to go out and list what I think is good, like in like Colossians, maybe Philippians. I'll say it's some good wisdom. Yeah, scripture is Torah, right? But there are some things that you can glean and apply to your life that will net you good results, right? Some things some of those things are kind of repeated from Proverbs. So some of those things that you find back there is taken from Proverbs, some from the wisdom of Solomon, different things like that. Long as here's what I say, as long as you're aware what you're reading and what the New Testament is and who wrote the books, then you decide, right? You decide. But what it should be something you can take, something that's not violating what Yahuwah said, what we can and what we can't or what we shouldn't do, because people do what Yahuwah tell us that we shouldn't do, right? But he lets us decide. He lets us choose. I would say sit and think about it. Does this go against anything that Yahuwah has said? Now, at all times, remembering that you are never to violate anybody else with the wisdom you choose to take and apply to your life. You can't violate anybody else. You shouldn't be violating your own body either, and you definitely shouldn't be violating Yah by going against Torah, or I'll say going against the principles of life. If they don't violate the principles of life, but they add to your overall well-being and can bless you and bless others, I would think about it all the way through, at least far as you can think with your understanding at this point, you know. And then if you're still unsure, ask Yah. Like, you don't really have to ask Yah everything, because he's given us wisdom and understanding where he allows us to make choices. But if we're really in a place where we're kind of stumped, then I would include some prayer. And if you're still not getting it with just the prayer, I would add a little bit of fasting to it, and then decide from there, right? But that's what I would say. And to answer that question,
look,
Mariah.
sharp butter knife.
Oh, thank you,
Sharp
Kimberly.
butter knife.
Thank you. She said they wanted to catch you and tell you that nail color complements you
Mom.
beautifully. I haven't got my nails painted. This look, I need to get them repainted because I'm pulling it off and stuff. But Bella, I bought her like this little kit, and she like real girly girl, right? I'm like, this is much just be inherent inside of girl children, right? Because that you would never get me to believe children are born thinking they're the opposite gender. When children are born, they have in them what Yahuwah created them to be. Yes, baby.
I said this the other day. I want some cough medicine.
You want some cough medicine? We'll talk about that in a second, sis. You're not coughing. I didn't hear you cough.
I coughed in Josh's bed.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear you cough. I'm gonna watch it though. I'm gonna watch it. But they're, even if you give them toys and they begin to interact, you can see that the little girls act girly in their high voices and they scream, and the little boys act like boys. They want to fight and wrestle and stuff, right? They actually have to be trained to go against their gender, i.e., by indoctrination, by what they're seeing all the time, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, it's Bella. We bought her little girly stuff, and she been wanting to paint my nails. You've seen on previous videos where I got different colors and I let her paint them, and she's still trying to get her skills down and paint within the lines. I'm like, sis, okay, I be taking it off before the video started. And it's like, this too much, and she get mad and she come checking me. Where's your fingernail polish? I was like, okay, I gotta stop doing that. That's why I was like, look, y'all, if you see the nails, they looking a mess. I don't care. To the baby paint them. She working on her painting skills and staying in the line. Sometimes I had to go get it's water based, but I had to pull off the paint from around off my skin and stuff, and but then I decided, you know what, let's go get a mani-pedi, let the professionals handle it, right? So it was pretty good. But yeah, so this is the first time with this actual color, but like I said, I need to get it painted again. First time we went together, but it's my first time painting my nails in years, because I don't really like I'm not really a big lover of having my nails painted. Yes, baby.
Look at my nails.
but I like it. But sometimes it's just like we're still trying to get our money situation under control. This was years ago. It was like, okay, I need to what's the word? I need to prioritize my life and the things that I'm spending money on. What do I want? What's really needed? What's not needed? And nails was one of the things, the because you got to get a fill in. I was getting tips and you got to get a fill in like every 2 weeks. And if you break one, you got to go spend more money. So I was like, you know what, this can wait for a long time. And after I kind of put it away, after I prioritized things in my mind, I just really didn't give much attention to it. So I had been years without painting my nails, right? Now I would still paint my toenails. I get a pedicure every now and again, but my hands and stuff, I figured that was extra. Plus, I had a bunch of little kids and I'm constantly washing dishes, all these things. Life just begins to settle in, right? And I just began to make adult decisions. But now I have a little girl. Now I have to think about all the years. She got to practice on somebody, right? And Dad was like, no, you ain't painting my nails. Right. So, and I didn't want her to get in the habit of painting her brother's nails. They wouldn't have it, they ready to fight and stuff. I was like, sis, come on, we'll do it together. But it's good little bonding time, mother and daughter and stuff. But that's why I'm like, okay, we can do this. And I got my money control, my mentality about money under control, and it won't get out of control by adding in little small things, right? So it's like good bonding time between me and Bella. But you can see I really still got to be on it because so we're gonna go in the next couple days and get it done. So but yeah, but thanks, Kim. Okay. All right, so yeah, that's it, y'all. Let's go ahead and do this lesson and get out of here.
I'm ready to do it again.
You ready to do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that a couple times.
I'm gonna do it a couple times. Hold on, wait. Just let me do the blessing first, sis. All right, y'all. It is Sunday.
I'm still coming.
I know you walking slow. Sunday, September the 12th, 2021.
Another day, I'm running fast and I'm a baby and you're ready to catch me.
Day 258 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3 years. Okay, very good. You remember it. Of the 3 year consecutive day count, day 927. We read the entire book of Habakkuk, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And then we finished up reading this section in chapter 5 and Caesar's Messiah from page 131 to page 141. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and. She is funny. She be taking my pictures. Y'all should see my phone and the pictures. She got all kind of pictures in there. Voguing. Like doing all kind. I'm going through my phone. I'm like, did you just literally take 5,000 pictures?
And because of you.
No, I tell you, put my phone down. Then she do it on a little rapid snap thing. And then in the rapid snap, it's like 100 pictures of her moving. That one move going back and forth is like 100 instant snaps of one movement. I'm just like, girl, look, Tootie. Hold on.
It was hit then.
Okay.
Give me your hand.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull this up, girl. Why are you putting it on my hand? My hand's ashy.
Yep, and you get itchy. This had to get all itch. Well, you have to do this one too.
Okay, yeah. Okay. The blessing is found in Numbers.
Let's go petty nails again.
Get petty nails again? Okay, yeah, we gotta go to. We can get petty nails again. A mani petty.
Not on me.
Remember the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27 is the blessing. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, girl, I can't see it. Hold on. Saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship.
This is too long for I can't get church.
Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being.
Will you kiss?
Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us. and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. That was joy. She blew us not a kiss, it's a heart. She gave you a heart. Everybody like to see your beautiful face. She is hilarious. Okay, y'all. With that being said, let's go ahead and roll up out of here today. Going out here, get on my skates again. Y'all see my little skate video? Yo, you should have seen me when I first got on the hard ground when I came out the grass. Well, YouTube, you probably ain't see it, but Facebook. So Bella got skates. Everybody got some kind of skating contraption. Playing outside. So
tablet.
We plan on teaching them how to skate real good, but we got to get back in the flow of things. I haven't been on skates in almost 20 years. If it's not already been over 20 years, but just about 20 years. First time I did pretty good. I ain't fall not one time, but up there. And then sometime I be having the issues with my sciatic nerve, which was good though. I ain't pulled nothing. I ain't get shin splints and nothing. But it was pretty good. So I'll upload it to. It was only like 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, like a minute 58 seconds. Y'all can see me the first time on the skates in almost 20 years. But we're gonna be uploading some. Well, you probably see it more on Facebook, whatever. But we may put it on our little family channel on YouTube. So but we're gonna do this whole little family skate thing, get our skills down, and hey, family that skates together stays together. I don't know.
Mom, like I have a lot.
But we're trying to do different things.
Mom,
and
I have a lot of TVs.
Okay, yes. Trying to remove some of the electronic activities from the children by doing real life activities where they can get some exercise and not be in the house all the time. Although we get out pretty good, but sometimes we need other things to help them burn off some of this energy. And skating to be pretty good. The boys all got skateboards now, so they gotta kind of be careful with that. But we told them,
what you want to do? Not this, or this.
I don't know. Use the pet glider. All right, y'all. With that being said, let's go ahead and get out of here. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Codes to turn on the machine.
Go ahead and end it too.
Good answer. Find
Bye.
the number.
Bye.
9.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Find the number 9.
Very good.
Keep going. Now you can see it.
Very good.
Find the number.
Okay, end it over here too. Yay.
Let's do it.